you been today?
What's good, party people? This is the Woods and Wade podcast. I'm according to Woods. She is Claudia Wade, and we're talking about all things Twitch. Maybe the streaming service, also possibly what I saw in Skid Row, LA today. There's a lot of twitching there, but apparently I'm 0 for 2, so I'm not even going to go three strikes you're out. Claudia, what Twitch are
Yeah,
we talking about today?
we are talking about do you know Ellen DeGeneres DJ
I know,
Twitch?
I know Ellen.
He
The guy
was
that plays the music when she dances all weirdly.
yeah. He
Okay,
was on So You Think You Can Dance.
was he?
Yeah, and he is also on Magic Mike,
Hey, baby, what's up, Big
and
Man?
he is also on what is that other dance? He's in a lot of dance stuff. He's a dancer.
Paulo Abdul, Dancing with the
Um,
Stars, the
no.
Masked Dancer,
No, he was
Tiny
on
Dancer.
So You Think You Can Dance.
Okay, right on.
And he committed suicide this morning.
Oh, Jesus. My
Yeah, that's
condolences to his family. The guy. Oh my God, that's
yeah.
horrible.
He was 40 years old.
That's not too far from the both of us.
That's right. Well, passed for me, but yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to age you, but okay. All right, your
No,
prerogative,
and
Bobby
I
Brown.
think yeah, this is one of those topics, again, I'm always about mental health. That is my main thing. It's mental health. And people just like you just never fucking know, man. Like this dude was like awesome at everything. If you look at social media, which it looks like you haven't today, or you just don't follow dance people, um, like you'll see that he was loved and he was like a big person. He had 3 kids. He just
Wow.
celebrated. He just celebrated his ninth year anniversary like 4 days ago,
Wow.
right? Leaves his house, leaves his car, rents a room at a hotel, and they call 911. Someone heard a shot, and there it is, and that was it.
Wow. Oh
That
my
shit's
gosh.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in So You Think You Can Dance at 200. He was like one of my favorite dancers. Like I used to watch that show faithfully, and you can tell like right away he's such a great person. Like his persona is so like there. Like it's so full of life and love and just he loved to dance. Like you can tell that was his world. And it's just like I woke up this morning and I saw it and I was like, no, that can't be right. But it was. And so I know we're starting low a little bit right now.
Oh
But
man.
one of those things is just I think mental health is one of those things we need to talk about all the time because we're so used to as minorities, I feel, we're always told that mental health is for weak people, getting help is for weak people. You needing any mental health is, it's weak. It's it makes you crazy. Like you're a crazy person if you need help. And I think that's a stigma we need to stop, right? Like I think that's something that we need to start saying, no, that's not right. That's not what it is. And I think Taraji P. Henson posted a link on how to get help. And she was saying, hey, black man, like we hear you, we see you. But it's not just black men, right? It's Hispanic men at the same time. Like I know a lot of Hispanic men that think that mental health is for the crazy, right? Like no, like we don't. No one needs that unless you're insane or you have crazy, or you have issues, or you can't handle your shit. But there's so many people that you think back, right? Celebrities that you're like, dude, that person had the world, and apparently they didn't, right?
Right.
And we end up finding out that they're committing suicide. Heath Ledger was one of those people. Like, he had the world at his hands with Batman and all his movies and the heartthrob, right? So it's a little insane to me.
Well, I guess that's a unintended pun, right? Insane to you, right? Because from the outside, I think it's all about optics, and it's
Right.
crazy enough that we're talking about this because off air I was kind of telling you I had like an hour drive back home, and
Mhm.
I as I do when I'm at work, I kind of scroll through YouTube and whatever. But I don't think it's out of the realm of like whatever. But like I'm a big Rogan guy, right? And the reason being is, like he and there's other people. There's tons of podcasters, and that's what I do. If you want to be a guitar player, you listen to you know Eric Clapton and Eddie Van Halen, and like there's so many. If you're a bass player, anything from Motown to John Entwistle of the Who and whatever. You go with what your art is. If you can find somebody
Right.
that kind of is on your same wavelength, and when you need inspiration, there they are, right? And so Rogan for me, kind of, he's one that tests the boundaries of what this medium is of podcasting to have. Not when I was coming into it, when I graduated high school, Inglewood High, and I went into radio school, you had to have, the Federal Trade Commission and, the Communications
Right. Right.
Commission to kind of like give you the thumbs up. And if you said a and a or there was dead air, that was a $10,000 fine. And that was crazy because you had to essentially, you know like I my personal experience, I lived in LA, one of the biggest radio markets in the world, especially in the early 2000s, right? And they're like, oh, you got to go to like Mississippi or Kansas in a converted barn, and you're going to basically be in a flop house, theoretically speaking, with 10 other
Mhm.
DJs in a one bedroom, one bath place, right? That every DJ that has come through that town and that radio station has stayed there. You got one car. You're on the street team passing out stickers to concerts and whatever. And hopefully, somebody that was passing through that town that got that signal that was on one of the bigger radio stations heard you, loved you, even though it was 3 o'clock in the morning in bloody Las Cruces, New Mexico, or Tupelo, Mississippi, and they're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
kid, come, whatever." But sometimes that whole scenario is a 5, 10, 20, 30 year scenario for some people, right? And there's no
Right.
pay. If you wanted to eat, you basically go, you did a 30-second commercial, which took 2 hours to do, right? And you had to cut it up yourself. And then you would get a gift card for whatever local eatery or grocery store or what have you, right? And that's how you ate.
Mhm.
Again, the flop house was because you did a radio ad for whatever apartment complex that was or what have you, and that's how. So like there was no money,
Right.
So for me, Rogan is one who, and I know he can be a controversial figure to some, but he for me is one who really tests the boundaries of what you can do. Well, not even boundaries, just expands the boundaries of what this medium can do. Yes,
Mhm.
from Fear Factor or news radio or the UFC or showing George St. Pierre or spinning back kick, all of those things are true, but also he has liberals, conservatives, astrophysicists,
Right.
fighters, whatever, transsexual, transgender, conservative people, and what like the whole gamut, right? And so I say all that to say he had this guy Mark Latia on, and if you guys don't know him by name, he has a YouTube channel called Soft White Underbelly. And it
Mhm.
was crazy to me that Rogan, not, it wasn't crazy to me that Rogan had him on, but I, for one, have been a subscriber to Soft White Underbelly for a number of years. right? And Mark basically interviews the life's downtrodden, the hookers, the fetishists, the sex workers, the gangsters, Hell's Angels, like people that wouldn't necessarily be a blue chip prospect to be the CEO of a particular Fortune 500 company or any
Mm-hmm.
Fortune 500 company or banking or whatever, but they're just intelligent as anybody else, but again, society, mainstream society has cast them off for one reason or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing about it, right? Because Mark on his comments, like, hey, you've interviewed thousands of people, like, why don't you help them? And he was just like, and this is something that I have wondered myself over, you know, the course of me patroning, and viewing his YouTube channel. Like, why doesn't he help? And he said, and it kind of came off as brash, uh, but he goes, I'm a person too, with two daughters, of younger adult age and what have you. I, you know, got divorced and gave up my career in advertising and everything like that, and it's still not enough. And right before, like, you messaged me like, hey, where's the link and whatever, the last thing he said when I shut the car off was like, he literally gives out $2,000 to $3,000 a day, whether that's paying people for interviews, getting people help, getting people food, a litany of different things, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously he didn't expand on it, but because again, I can shut the car off to do this very pod, right? So, um, I say all that to say there, it's all mental health, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
if it's a drug addiction, you don't have to peel back the surfaces to learn that it's a mental health addiction or an emotional, you know, uh, uh,
Right.
dependency, right? Mom left, dad left. Your mom's a junkie, dad's a junkie. You were molested by somebody close, somebody that you trusted.
Mm-hmm.
You have gender dysphoria issues. You know all of the gambling issues. Like, and one of the things that Mark does, and Rogan highlighted it, was the fact that he's kind of monotone, right? He's kind of monotone. Oh, I gotta address. Mick likes your jumper, and reminds him of Tweety Bird. hundred
It's
percent.
actually Woodstock.
Oh, oh, there you go. A new idea has entered the chat. I love
It's
it. Oh wow, it's like a
my
snuggie.
Woodstock
It's a snuggie.
from Snoopy. No,
Okay,
it's a hoodie,
okay, all right.
but
I,
I'm tiny and so nothing fits. See?
okay, that works.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
No,
it's
so
Woodstock.
yeah, so I myself have wondered why I watch this channel, right? Because it's
Hmm.
like the most horrid stories, and you know,
Because we like that shit.
I don't. It's not so
Because
much I
it
like
pulls you in.
Yeah, okay,
You
so
want to know about the other side.
of course, and that's also as an interviewer, right? Like,
Hmm.
again, much like Rogan, Mark Latia, whether I knew his name or not, was one of my heroes, the guy from Soft Light Underbelly, because he can, you know, I mean, he has some dark people. Like, there, he was speaking of a guy who molested his daughter from age 8 to 14, and her best friend, and of course she served time or whatever. But he was saying, like, he treats them the same, as in terms of his voice and judgment, as somebody that was the Queen of England or a dignitary. He's
Right.
very just even keeled, right? And I wonder, because when you look at some interviewers and people that are paying hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to interview, there's some bias in the voice, like, or whatever. Some sports talk people or whatever, they almost have a preconceived notion of who the person is, what they did, and what have you, and that comes across And I think that's very, very crucial because you as an interviewer or whatever, you have people that like that style, your style, and
But
whatever, and you
you know who
influence
else?
people.
You know who else is like that?
Ooh,
Cops.
ooh,
And I'll tell you why.
okay,
Yeah, I know it's really crazy that because everything that you mentioned, like I've mentioned this before that I've done a ride along. I did a ride along with some guys, some really awesome guys, and we talked to a hooker, and it was just, you know, make sure you're not here next time I see you. Talked to some transgender dude. They were like, "You're not from around here. Why are you out here? What are you doing?" Type of shit. And then we went to a scene where someone got shot. Now, this is like maybe 10, 15 years ago, so it's been a while. But someone got shot and they were laying there on the ground. It was like an ex gang member, and I think he was also paralyzed and got shot. So that to me is irrelevant. If you're a gangster, and
right,
it's irrelevant to me. But I remember them telling me like, you should be a cop because anyone that sees this and you're supposed to react. Like you have not reacted to one thing. And then we went to a call of someone having a heart attack. And the guys didn't know English, I mean Spanish, but the girl's dad was having a heart attack, I believe it was, or grandfather. And so they're trying to like figure out. And I was like, I speak Spanish. I'll help you guys. So they're like, oh my god, they're like frantic, and I was like, relax, the guys are here to do their job, blah blah blah. We're waiting for this, we're waiting for that, and they were like, you have no emotion, like you are calm as we are. How? I was like, I just don't react.
mm,
I am not a person. I am just like that. I could, like I tell everyone, I can treat the janitor the exact same way that a CEO is going to be treated because you're no different. We are people, right? And that's just how I've always seen it.
It has the
And
non-binary, trans, and LGBTQ flag on that one. I gave it to Scoop.
what are you listening to?
Let go.
I'm not listening to anything. I think that's Owen in the background. He's on
Oh,
Twitch. That's oh, for those who don't know, no, I'm not talking to the deceased ghost of Owen Hart. No, that is my 15-year-old son, who
he's such
is
a
named.
cutie pie.
Oh, thank you. You've got some cutie pies yourself, you know.
Oh, I know.
And yeah, but I mean, you might hear it. We've got the grandbabies here too, and the
Okay.
daughter. So
Yeah,
you know,
nice.
actually, like 2 minutes as we get in, the oldest son at the house, he just came home from work. So if you hear
Nice.
any of it and whatever,
I was
that's
like,
what that is. Yeah, that's probably Owen.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, but yeah, like it's crazy because there's certain people that can just be like, I'll deal with my own emotions later.
yeah,
And there's people that is like, oh my gosh. So I get it. Like I get why, your podcaster can just, you know, interview anyone and they're like, meh, whatever. I
yeah.
don't think I would be able to interview any molester though.
Right.
Now that I have kids,
Yeah, exactly.
prior to having kids, I think I would be able to do anything
Hmm.
and actually be a cop. Now that I have kids, there's no way.
Right, and especially
There's
somebody
no
who
way.
molested their own, like that's a whole layer of things,
That is a whole different layer. That's
or
a whole different onion.
yeah, yeah. Micmac says Ric Flair said Eric Bischoff has no friends. I might think that is Ric Flair might have to shine the mirror back at himself.
I hate Ric Flair.
Same,
I
same.
can't
There's
stand that guy.
I mean, I respected him. Like I was one who, if you were talking to me 15 years ago, like when
Hmm.
the first like Ultimate Ric Flair DVD came out with the WWE and whatever, like I would have said whatever. Like I, before smartphones, I carried his "To Be the Man" on in the paperback form. I
Mm-hmm.
carried it in my pocket. I took it to the bathroom when I and read it. Pre cell phone and stuff like that.
I've
Like I
never liked him.
yeah. So I did. Those opinions have changed.
What made
Uh,
your opinion change about Ric Flair? Like, what is it that you're like?
the divorces, the I mean, he and this is one where um and Hogan kind of gets the same rap in my book, right? Um for completely different reasons, right? Ric Flair,
Mhm.
when they say if you're a wrestling persona, right? Undertaker's another guy who gets a lot of credit for what I'm about to speak. Is you live your gimmick, you live your character, right?
Mhm.
Undertaker always had dark shades, whatever. He was there with Paul Bear and all that jazz. He protected the gimmick, right?
I hated Paul Bearer.
Oh, I mean, I was scared of fucking Paul Bear.
I couldn't stand him. He didn't shut up. Like,
Uh,
my
but
attention span is this, like this, and every time he spoke, I was like, "Squirrel." I can't do it. I can't do it.
not me. Every time I heard the gong, like like WWF superstars, I heard the fucking gong and I went to the bathroom until I heard like Sean Mooney or Lord Alfred Hayes come back after the fact, because the first time I
Mhm.
saw the whole presentation, the gong, the woo, and the fucking this is a fucking 7-foot zombie walking down the fucking ring. And not just any
I
zombie, not like Walking Dead zombie, like a 1800s fucking, like, mortician fucking. No, fuck
you're
that.
gonna
And then he
you're
put
gonna
the people
laugh.
in body bags and carried them to the back.
You're
Fuck all
gonna
that.
laugh.
Okay, go ahead.
But I used to be so in love with the Undertaker.
I
Like,
could see
I
that.
used to be like, I want one of your coffins. I
I
will
could
lay
see that.
there. I was just crazy. It was, I don't know. I don't know what it was between the Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was like, and Shawn Michael, which is like not even in the same spectrum. Like, those are my three dudes that I can like. I love, and I love the Miz. Everyone hates the Miz,
I
but
respect
I
the Miz.
love me the Miz. I love me some Miz.
There you go. I mean, everybody
Mm,
everybody has a deal.
yeah, I loved him
Next,
since he was on.
Real World. That was real.
Yes, I used to love when he was in Real
Real
World.
World, and then he did all the fucking. I remember that. That was Real World New York, like season 10, and
Yeah,
he
it
was.
was in New York.
Wasn't it New York?
I don't think so. Now I want to know. Hold
I
on.
just remember
But
him
go on.
running through the house with a prop WWF Winged Eagle title, like a costume one, and he'd be like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, I'm the Miz," and whatever the fuck, and then I think he did. After that, he did like a plethora of those Road Rules, Real World
Yeah, the Road Rules
challenges.
challenges.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then I remember him coming out here because he was at UPW
oh, you
Ultimate.
were right. Yeah, it was New York.
Yeah, season 10.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they did it was almost like WrestleMania, right? So they did WrestleMania 1, Madison Square Garden, New York, right? And they did WrestleMania 10,
It was
WrestleMania
back to New York. Yeah.
right. So they did Real Worlds 1, season 1, New York, and then they went back for season 10. Again, this is who knows this? I know this. Can I remember anybody's fucking birthday without Facebook? Fuck no. I don't know, but I don't know. I have no control of what gets stored in here and what just goes out the.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. And Mac says Ric Flair's bitter, and cell phone, you mean mobile phone. Either or, I see you with your British Commonwealth. I know those words too. Um,
Yeah. So Ric Flair, we
yeah,
don't like
so
him because of the
I just
divorces.
think he's a deplorable human being. Every every friend that he's had, like, I mean, I don't know if but like he was talking shit about Bischoff, because right now there's going to be a, another Ric Flair documentary. What the fuck can we learn from another Ric Flair documentary that his book that was a New York Times bestseller, his ESPN 30 for 30, which got Emmy nominated, right?
Mhm.
What else can we learn about Ric Flair that the TMZ, him fucking, getting drunk and beating the shit out of a North Carolina patrol person, or the fights with his son, or we've kind of heard it all. Like, and there are
Mhm.
more. To me, there's more deserving people. Funny enough, I was actually supposed to do a show tonight with John Marshall of the Lords of Mayhem podcast, because we were going to break down the four Nature Boys. The original one, Buddy Rogers, uh,
Mhm.
Nature Boy Roger Kirby, who was running concurrent with Flair right around the same time frame.
Mhm.
Um, Buddy Landell, who came later in the 80s. And God, there's a fourth one that I'm forgetting, whatever, but we were supposed to talk about it. But for me, there's this guy named Nick Bockwinkel, who was from Texas, a second generation wrestler,
Mhm.
where Flair was the Wolf of Wall Street, 80s tycoon, woo, and whatever. You take Leonardo DiCaprio's Wolf of Wall Street character and Ric Flair, and they're right here, they're neck and neck, right? But you had a guy named Nick Bockwinkel who wrestled in the AWA, and for promotions, right? We get ECW reunions, we get WCW, stuff and whatever, but AWA, Mean Gene Okerlund, Bobby the Brain Heenan, fucking Hogan, Andre
Mhm.
the Giant, they all came from the AWA in Minnesota,
Mhm.
So with that all being said, Nick Bockwinkel actually sounded like somebody that Robin Leach, remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous,
Yeah.
right? Nick Bockwinkel sounded like somebody that was actually rich and famous of the 80s versus
Mhm.
Flair was just whatever the fucking always went into business for himself. His friends like Arn Anderson that stuck by him through all the divorces, all the like. You listen to his daughter, who's uh,
I hate her too.
I don't I I I thought it was hyperbole that when Ric Flair was like when she was just starting out and she was like she's better than me because she had gymnastics and volleyball and whatever behind her. Um, she is a I think she's way better than her dad, 100%.
Mhm.
Like at this level, she's better than her dad. She cuts like she is the total package, not the Lex Luger, but she is the total package. I I just Ric Flair has never turned Ric Flair off, and that's
Mhm.
you're 80. And I think the thing that did it for me was when he had like a medical event where he almost died. He was damn near comatose for like a month and a half, if not
Mhm.
more so. Again, time frames kind of blur together for me, but um, a long time. And his girlfriend, not his wife, because he didn't marry her, even though they did a commitment ceremony. It wasn't a wedding or whatever, but
Mhm.
she was actually one of his valets like 20 years before as Fifi the maid, right? In
Mhm.
like the 90s, right? Well, he's with her, and then he's not with her, and she's stuck by him like when he was at death's door.
Right.
And I'm like, how? Like, there's
I
no,
just he's just too much of himself.
yeah,
And I think that's my problem with Charlotte. I think my problem with Charlotte is that she is better than her dad,
yeah.
but she doesn't she can do this on her own. Put daddy dick to the side, stop sucking on your daddy's dick, put him to the side, and do your own thing. And that is my problem, is that she can do it on her own, but she chooses to be her dad. And I hated that shit from when she first came out. I was like, oh, here we go, the she flare. Get off your daddy's dick and you'll be fine.
I actually. respectfully disagree because
I didn't
if
like her. I didn't like her at all from the beginning. Maybe just because I just didn't like Ric Flair, and then she came out with the whole Ric Flair thing, and I was like, bro, why couldn't you just do this on your
no,
own?
I mean it's fair,
Everyone else has tried, right? They always compare them back to their parent, and
right?
that's fine. It is what it is. But she just came out like, I'm just gonna ride this dick and just go with it.
Well, I mean, you definitely want to be careful of that because there's a lot of people who literally ride Ric Flair's dick.
Well,
His promo was about the longest line, what being Space Mountain and being the oldest ride in the park with the longest line. That was literally something that he said, right?
gross.
Um, yeah. So for a long time, right? And mind you, she didn't wrestle the indies like the Miz did or whatever. You know, she was a WWE product right from
Mhm.
when I think it was like after Ric Flair's retirement match, and then her little brother Reed passing away, and obviously like David Flair was in WCW, Rick's older son from I believe his first marriage, right? Rick had two boys, two girls, right? David and Megan. I want to say it was from his first wife, right?
Mhm.
And then this either first or second wife. I can't Flair marriages or whatever, but two have the same mom, and then the other two have the same mom. And
Mhm.
the lady that he was with, his wife that he was with, whatever, comes Reed and Ashley, in which now know as Charlotte, right? But
Mhm.
David, you know, during the dying days of WCW, he actually had a run, with and he was kind of his dad until he, kind of went away from his dad, and Stacey, that's how they introduced like Stacy Keebler, because Stacy Keebler was the one who kind of got him away, and he was kind of whipped and whatever, and then he ended up with this chick named Daphne. It's fucking pro wrestling, man. Like I could tell you the whole deal, but whatever. But I believe David is working for like the state troopers of North Carolina now, right?
Mhm.
But and then Megan is actually married to Conrad Thompson, who runs a lot of the Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Bruce Pritchard, Jim Ross, fucking Kevin Nash, like the top whatever wrestling podcasts, like the top 20 wrestling podcasts week per week.
Mhm.
That's Conrad Thompson's doing. And Megan from the first marriage. So Megan and David, right? David tried to wrestle, whatever. And then Megan is married to Conrad Thompson, who runs the whole podcast,
Mhm.
produced Ric Flair's last match and the whole deal, right? Then you have the younger two, Ashley and Megan. I mean, Ashley and Reed. And Ashley was, we now know her as Charlotte. She was the older of the
Mhm.
two, didn't want to wrestle until two things happened. Ric Flair's last match in the WWE with Shawn Michaels, the retirement match, was supposed to be. And he even reneged on that and went to TNA because they're going to pay him. Like he didn't
Mhm.
intend to retire. Again, that's another thing that I have against Ric Flair. He's talked way too much shit about Bret Hart and Mick Foley and like guys that I love.
Mhm.
Um, so to me it's just a bit much, right? But
Yeah.
Reed, who was wrestling in Japan, he was probably going to be the most like Rick in terms of doing things the right way and whatever, but then he ends up passing away of an overdose. He had,
Mhm.
and kind of leading into what we were talking about, the origin of this episode of the podcast, right? Mental health, drug addiction, and what have you.
Right.
Even Ric Flair's youngest son couldn't, you know, and I'm not saying that Rick was the catalyst for it. Maybe if Rick or Richard Fleer ended up like a gynecologist, like his, because Ric Flair was adopted, and the family that he was adopted into, actually, the father was a gynecologist in Minneapolis,
Mm.
in Minnesota, right? Which that's an eerie foreboding for what Rick was going to do.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, there's, if Richard Morgan Fleer didn't become Ric Flair, right?
Mhm.
And was just like a, I don't know, a welder or, a landscaper. Does his kids have the same problems or whatever? Is
Oh, I
he?
think 100%.
Yeah, and again, that's the whole thing about mental illness or whatever. You can have the best of intentions, the best
Mhm.
life, and I
All
bring
the
it up.
money in the world.
Yeah, all the money in the world and still feel empty. And once you have that emptiness, like there really isn't much you can do.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think like it's crazy to like think that this is what we are dealing with is picture perfect on the mobile, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah, mobile. I'm a hair model. No, I'm not. I If I was ever on a set to do anything, whatever, I'd probably interview the photographer and whatever. Like please take it away from me. Like like I don't want to be the focus of attention. But that's
Yeah.
so no, I'm not. But go ahead. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, like it's crazy. Like the whole situation just mental health is just such such a big grain in this huge world. Like we keep letting it pass us by, and like you hear that always check on your strong friends. Like
Mm,
and that shit is real. Like that shit is so fucking real. Always check on the strongest friends, especially around the holidays. You and I missed a podcast last week because we were both in mourning, right?
yeah.
My mom's birthday was last week. Your mom's passing was last week as well. And we
Right.
decided to kind of just
Do
deal
the
with our
family.
own emotions.
Yeah.
And so, December is not always a great time for people,
Actually,
right?
statistically, it's the worst.
It's most likely the worst because people deal with passing of people the first time of to be without that person, to remember that person. How do we continue to show that this person is in our lives and not forget them, right? How do we move? We've had this conversation, right? I've told you, it's like we have to figure out how to move forward with the thought of that person and not let it hinder our life, right? And in the same sense, understand that we are hurting and we're okay. And that's okay. To hurt is okay. Like to not be okay, it's okay.
Hmm.
Like it's 100% okay, right? Like with you coming to Thanksgiving, that was hard for you, but you came, you had
Yeah.
fun. I'm waiting to see if you're going to come for Christmas Eve, but we'll
That's even
see.
a weird one too. But
Right,
we'll get to that.
right. So it's just one of those things like, my brothers are going to be here. They're both going to be here. My brother's flying in from Tennessee to be here for Christmas. It'll be our first Christmas without our cousin, and so that's hard for everyone. Um, we finally put up the tree, but putting up the tree was one of those things that my cousin was here for, and he was the main person that we did everything, and then he put the last light, the star on our tree. And I'm going to really say that that was one of the reasons why we probably didn't finish it. Like we went into playing the games, we were excited, we were happy, everyone won stuff, we all had fun, and I'm like, do I want to finish this? I'll do it as like when I can, right? And that's what I did. We did it when I was able to do it, when I was able to deal with it, knowing that he wasn't going to do the star this year, right?
Yeah.
And so it's our first year without him, and it's a lot of emotions.
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing that we also have to be very cautious of is that I love the holidays. We've talked about this, right? I love the holidays. But
Especially
with
Mariah
that,
Carey.
negative. No more I carry in this house. But I love the holidays. I love
Bull!
Christmas.
I can attest. Mariah Carey played over the loudspeaker at your house as we were eating. So
And then when I realized it was playing, I
it was
changed it.
halfway over.
Because listening. I was listening to my guests.
Okay.
I
Right
was
on.
paying attention to everything that was going on around me. Not
Okay.
Mariah Carey. Until your son pointed it out and he was like,
That's
It made
Owen
me
though.
listen to it, and I was like, I was wondering when you were gonna change it.
That's my boy. That's Owen. Oh my god,
Oh,
yeah.
because I ran to my phone and I was like, I hate fucking Mariah Carey, and he was like, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
ah. But anyway, yeah. So as much as I love the holidays, like I've said, I want to be that person that is still happy during the holidays. It doesn't mean that I'm not hurting. It doesn't mean that I'm not in my own feelings, but it does mean that I'm trying to move forward, and it means that I'm trying to make things as easy for me and everyone around me, and as nice as it can be, knowing that we're missing these people, right?
Yeah,
So instead of being home crying, dwelling, like in my own feelings, not caring about anything, pushing everyone aside, those are the things that cause the bad in your mental health, right? Trying, and like I said, it's okay not to be okay. You can be like, look, I'm just not feeling it. I don't, this happened during Christmas. Like, we lost my husband's granddad on Christmas Day.
mm,
And so the beginning of the holidays is it gets harder and harder and harder for him. And it's just, but he still tries to participate. He makes the best of it. He gets in his feelings later or before, but during he tries to have the best time he can, and just be in everything, right? And I think that's the best anyone can do is still
right,
try to be present, and then dealing with not having that presence
right,
of that person, right? So I think that's always my major goal is to make sure that if one of my friends is like, dude, I'm not feeling well today, like I just don't want to be here, like I just want to curl up in bed, like I don't feel good, and I'm like, hey, let's grab some coffee. Like I'll meet you at the Starbucks. I'll be back in like, we'll go out for an hour, have some coffee, get some fresh air, and that's all it takes. Like we don't have to talk about anything. It could just be a cup of coffee. We
hmm
can chill and enjoy your coffee. We can talk about anything else but what you're stressing about, or we can just talk about what you're stressing about. But I think being there for those people, if you're this person like me, that I can deal with it later, but I can be here for you, that's who you need to be.
mm,
And that's why I think people like us, like me, are like always around other people, like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Like for Christmas, right? Christmas is very hard for you as well.
yeah,
And so you have to figure out that struggle. You have to figure out, am I going to be able to do X, Y, Z? How am I going to feel during it? And again, Thanksgiving was great for you. I really love that you came and you had fun, and that you were able to kind of like store your feelings for a little bit and then
yeah.
go back into them, and that's okay, right? And that's totally fine, and that's what
Y-
you should do.
Yeah, no, but let the record state, I couldn't stand the holidays before my parents passed away. So there you go. I didn't, that was just like the icing on top. That's a cherry on top. Yasmeet says, I agree with both of you. I lost my grandma in like 2009, and Christmas and New Year's have never been the same. We're still trying to move forward, and it's a hard thing to do. No, 100%. And
Yeah,
man, bro,
our condolences.
yes, absolutely. Our condolences. He and his family just got over this crazy, crazy thing. I'm glad that Yaz and his family are doing well. Dude, I was in the Hollywood Hills the whole time, so I'm sorry because that was one of the things I did today. Me and Yaz were talking, but I was in like what is it? What is that Laurel Canyon or whatever and I
The hills.
yeah, the hills, and I didn't get reception back, and then I was rushing back home to do this. But again, my apologies, Yaz. Um, hopefully, our condolences to you and your family. No, but it's wild, right? Like I think it's a mortality thing, right? Because like I remember the first real like death and suicide of And now, I mean, we have had friends that have passed away, or people that we knew in the neighborhood pass away. Somebody in our graduating class, or somebody that we knew
Mm-hmm.
in elementary school, or whatever. But like for me, Jesus Christ, man, like Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, and so closely,
Mm-hmm.
and they were friends and whatever. And that Chris Cornell, I mean, I think it's been found out that he had a bad reaction to, medication that
To
was supposed to,
medication,
yeah,
right?
and it just, and that's the thing about it is like, once you get in that spot, right, you don't come back from it. It's not like, oh, I accidentally, I was on meds and I accidentally killed myself, but I'm okay. No, it's like that's it. And maybe there's, like, oh, maybe I don't want to die or whatever. Like, and that's not for everybody. I'm not trying to paintbrush it, right? And then, Chester, who had been his friend, and that was his
Mm-hmm.
idol, sang at his Cornell's memorial and died not too long after. And even like
Right.
Chris Cornell, like I'm not too religious or whatever, but I swear to God that Prince got his wings when there's a performance that Chris Cornell did on Cirrus, and it was Nothing Compares to You. And it's just Chris Cornell and his guitar and another dude on his guitar. Kiki Simons, I believe it is. And there's just them in the Cirrus studio not too long after Prince passed away. You listen to that fucking song. And I swear to God, if you're not religious, you're not spiritual, that's cool. Listen to that fucking song. I swear that Prince got his fucking wings or whatever the fuck you believe
Mm-hmm.
in after that last note was played and sung by Cornell and Kiki Simons. So for that all to happen, that was it. Then more recently, we've had Jason David Frank, the Green and White Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
like 2, 3 weeks ago, right?
yeah,
Is that about so close?
suicide. He had a fight with his estranged wife. And they were in a bit of a. They were at a hotel, and he went to his room. She went to his. I mean, they had an argument. He went to his room. She went to hers, and then she went back to his room, knocked or whatever. Had to get hotel people to let her in, and he was gone. You
Right.
know, um, over the pandemic, had a couple of friends who passed away. Jason Glaza, who is a fighter and fight promoter and coach and trainer. He ended up passing away due to COVID. God, who else? Cooper Gibson, who's a fighter. Him and his twin brothers were pro MMA fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and they both had overcome, chemical dependency issues, drug addictions, um, and Cooper unfortunately succumbed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's just like no, nobody's nobody's ready, right? There's never a great time.
No.
Christine McVie, one of my favorite like artists, whatever. Everybody talks about like Fleetwood Mac being Stevie Nicks and um, Lindsey Buckingham, obviously, right? And they joined the group and whatever. But like the core of the group, the reason why it's Fleetwood Mac is Mick Fleetwood, the fucking 7 foot animal on fucking drums, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the team of then husband and wife, John and Christine McVie, Fleetwood Mac, there, right? And then
Right.
Lindsay and Stevie come in as a couple and whatever. But like she passed away, of
Last
of
week.
cancer. Yeah, and that wasn't a right time, and to me, like she had just rejoined the group a couple years back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, like Lindsey Buckingham, there was some acrimonious thing that was still going on with Stevie and whatever, and they cut Lindsey Buckingham off, and they hired Neil Finn, the singer of Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over, right, and Mike Campbell, who's the guitarist
Mm-hmm.
for Tom Petty, and they had two guys to replace Lindsey Buckingham, which
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And you thought like they were doing sold out concerts and in their 70s, like You're still fucking doing the shit and whatever, and she passes away, and it's just like that hit just as well. Like, and it's a multitude of things. You know, you can't. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, one of the reasons why I don't know if we're even going to be in town for Christmas Day is I hope it's there's someone in our family that has battled cancer and various types of cancer for 30 years now, and this person really close to my wife, right?
Mhm.
I mean, to the extent where like they grew up together
Mhm.
and then they were separated, and literally like 25, 30 years after the fact, they get together and it's like nothing. The last time they saw each other, they were like kindergarten, first grade. And then now they're, mom, like to the extent where the daughters, right? Like our
Mhm.
daughter and this person's daughter, the names are so alike. You're not even whatever. And it just, I don't know if this is
Just
it.
don't know.
You
Right.
just, yeah, but there's been considerable weight loss, and
Mhm.
and my wife's grandmother is in her 90s. She literally came from Oklahoma in the Dust Bowl, the same Dust Bowl we
Mhm.
read about in books, but she doesn't remember anyone, and it's weird, right? So it's
It's
not,
wild. I know
yeah,
my grandmother was 99. She's gonna be 100 this year, and at the beginning of December, my aunt calls and says, "Hey, we're not sure how much longer." So we bought my dad a one way ticket, and I said, "Hey, go be with your mom." Like we didn't get that chance when my mom got sick. I got a call at 6 in the morning that my mom was in the hospital. By the time I got here from Vegas, my mom was pretty much dead.
wow.
Right? She was in. She had surgery. They were waiting 24 hours to see what was going to happen. Was she going to respond or not? And all of that, it was like no,
It's a
right?
formality, yeah.
So it's like by the time I left Vegas and got to LA, my world had already flipped before I
Right.
even got here. So I told my dad, I said, "You have the opportunity to have the time. Go." And sure enough, he was there and he said, "No, I think I'm ready to come home." 2 days before he came home, she passed at home. He stayed for, all the religious stuff that they do. And he was able to just, have his time, have his last moment and enjoy being with his mom. And that is a lot for someone. That helps a lot. Versus how we lost our mom, right? We lost our mom suddenly and like literally my brother was an hour away, an hour and a half away. He lived in Victorville. And literally by the time he got here, mom was gone, right? And he and I, Joseph and I, saw my mom last because we didn't have our COVID shots. So everyone that had their COVID went to go see them, and we saw her last. And so we didn't see her till like Tuesday, Wednesday. By this point, all this happened on Monday. By Tuesday, Wednesday, they're like, nothing's happening. Thursday morning, they call me and they say, we've declared. Uh, and that was it. 4 days. I saw my mother twice in 4 days. I was pregnant at the time, so I couldn't like really be in my feelings. Again, I'm not a person that's in my feelings. I take care of everything first. And I really couldn't be in my feelings because I was pregnant. And then I talked to my doctor. My doctor was like, I need you to be in your feelings because you holding it in is bad for the baby. I was like, what? And you're
Mm,
not taught that. You're taught, no, if you're emotional, it's bad for the baby.
right.
And and my doctor was like, no, no, let it out. Just go. Right. So, but the bad part, my mom passed away in September. My grandmother in January. My dad was in El Salvador. January 22nd. The next day, Eric passed away. Literally the next morning,
Wow.
January 23rd, right behind my grandmother. And so it's been a lot for us. It's been a lot. And so, again, it's we always have to make sure we check in on everybody, and I've made it my business to make sure that we have like a cousins group chat to kind of be like, how are you guys doing? How is today? How are your kids? How are you? And to some are like, oh my god, this is crazy. You guys talk so much. And to me, it's like, but what would happen if we didn't have this? Right? Sometimes the little meaningless things to others might be a big thing to that one person that you don't know that it's a big thing for.
Yeah,
Right? So it's just a matter of rolling the right dice.
no, 100%. And I'm hearing that, like, I feel, and I kind of went through the same thing with my mom. Like, we weren't
Hmm.
talking. I think she passed away. Just, I mean, to me, it's December 2nd, but like clinically, it was December 4th, right? Because we
Right.
had our organs, donated and all that jazz. But I think October we got into a big blow up. Like, I had just bought a car, left our older kids with her, along with Owen, who is made, pre, because Owen was like 2 or 3 when my dad passed away, so maybe kindergarten age when my mom passes away, and you know, like, we had like a blow up. Like, my mom just said some crazy shit to my I, I guess the father of my nephew. That's the best way. Like, he and I are not fucking good. Like, if I yeah, like,
Right.
um yeah. So, like, I don't even understand why he exists. Like, I don't, like, I am offended that he breathes air. That's
I
how
hate people that way. I
I
dislike people like that
I
sometimes.
don't dislike. I hate is a strong word, but I really, really don't like you. I will apply both to this fucking head. And I mean,
Hmm.
like, the last time I saw him, I unloaded on his ass. Like, because to him, and again, his family was very close, even though, like, his dad was an alcoholic, an adulterer, had a kid outside the marriage, like, whatever.
Hmm.
But this sucker was at, like, in private school. He couldn't even fucking hack in private school, both academically and just, behavior wise. Couldn't his
Hmm.
his parents, had already bought their house in Inglewood, like, paid off before he was even out of, like, high school. They
Hmm.
had, good fucking jobs and whatever. And these still a fuckhead. Like a fuckhead, that one. This the fucking whatever. But, I was offended about what my mom told him the last time we talked, and I was just like, Mom, I can't do this anymore. This is fucking wild. My mom was right about this. He was, so I fucking unloaded on his stupid ass. I was just like,
Hmm.
the last thing I ever fucking said to my mom was a fucking argument because I was defending your stupid fucking ass. I mean, it just flowed. I never felt so good. Just fucking
Unloading.
fuck you, you stupid son of a bitch. You couldn't even make it in private school, but you want to be a fucking gangster, you and your friends and whatever, still living at home with mom and whatever the fuck. And he's a fucking, like, the smartest thing he did. Literally, the smartest thing he did was blow a load into my sister because my nephew is awesome. My nephew is awesome,
Well, there you go. He was saving all that for something else.
but he's done everything to fucking undo the one good deed.
Mm.
My sister had preeclampsia and whatever. He wouldn't help her out my fucking car, and, like, Jesus Christ, he's a fucking scum. He's a scum. I like this is probably as because I'm giving it valor, right? So, like, I will never mention him again, ever, on whatever.
Hmm.
But he is a piece of shit, like, lower than shit, like, fucking, oh, like the fucking maggots that feed on shit. He's probably lower than that. Jesus Christ, yeah. So, but yeah. So the last time I saw my mom, was that, and we weren't talking. And then my, stepdad, my mom's husband, And even that was a fucking whatever because like there was some family stuff going on. There's like my grandparents had land in Fiji. I guess have land in Fiji and the family house, right? And like my mom's, like sisters would all like know, like it's our land and whatever. They're fighting people. Like it was it's still going on. My goodness, my mom has been dead for almost 10 years. My grandfather has been dead since like what my fucking senior year of high school and whatever. And this they're fucking still fighting over this land that
Yeah, that's
nobody's.
what happens when people die. People
Yeah,
fight.
yeah. And so here's the crazy thing. So there was a brother that they had, right? That was born out of wedlock before my grandparents actually met, whatever. And he was whatever. My mom's family don't want to acknowledge him, even though like my uncle, who is like the next in line of the oldest of the oldest son, like literally the last thing he said before he ends up, like he was at the fucking funeral, and then he goes, "This is my brother, my older brother, and now that he's gone, I'm going to go claim the family land." Walks out the church, takes one picture, ends up passing away of a massive heart attack. Like,
This is wild.
again, it's and this is also why I can't get into fucking movies and whatever. And I'm watching, listening to Rogan, watching Soft White Underbelly, or people fucking themselves up because the truth of people are way crazier than anything that could be put on paper in a fucking graphic novel or whatever, or a Marvel movie or
It's
whatever.
true.
Those are not interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
again, my when I was young, like toddler age, my parents kind of was like, okay, cool, you're watching wrestling, because like I would watch Mighty Mouse and Superman on tape from Woolworths, pop that
Hmm.
in, and we lived in a Victorian apartment above ground, and I'd be looking out the window and like, hey, like fuck, I want to be Mighty Mouse and whatever, and jump out the
Right.
bloody window, or whatever. I was just impressionable, is what I'm saying, right? Um, so all of that, right? And it, like to me, and that's why I interview. That's why whatever, because I want to get to the heart of the matter of people and find out how they tick and try to find some semblance of what they have, what
Hmm.
whether they know it or not, right?
Right.
Even seeing people that I've interviewed in the past, right? And because they've done so many interviews with me, whatever, that when they get on bigger platforms than mine, they're like, it's second nature. But 3 years before, that wasn't the case.
Right.
But by doing that and becoming compelling, guess what? It provides a better security for their family. They end up
Hmm.
getting commentator stuff or acting gigs beyond fighting. So when they get to lay the boots down, lay the gloves down or whatever, they're doing it on their own accord rather than you know going until their brains are brashed out before they hang it up, and they're forced to hang it up. But even that is a mental addiction, right?
It is a total mental addiction.
So like we all have it, right? People that are overly religious or love food too much or love the movies or this and that. Like oh man, the last couple of years I've been really into fucking everything cult like I just finished up the one, oh, there's Wild Wild Country, about the like the Eastern. I, I don't know. I don't know if it's India or Pakistan, but this dude Bhagwan came over with this chick Sheila, who they were kind of like in relations with, whatever. But also Bhagwan set up this religion and whatever, and he
Hmm.
ends up starting whole town, a whole town in
Oh,
like
cult.
Pacific Northwest, right? I mean, to the extent like the founder of Nike was like, "Who the fuck are they doing to my town?" And that's when it really gets to like oil and water, but they had like they,
Cults to me are wild.
I love it. I fucking love it because it just shows,
Like,
right?
how are you not dumb? That's not the word.
It's not dumb.
No. How are you gullible? How are
Yeah,
you that gullible? Or not
I
how do
wouldn't
you
even.
not know enough? Because people that end up in cults are people that are not like out there. They're not like as educated, I would say. I would
No,
think, right? Or
no,
or
no.
are a little too
I've seen a lot of intelligent people end up in fucking cults and not even.
not really. No, that's not what they're too like maybe tucked in. Like I don't know enough about the world,
I mean,
and so this is showing me something, and so it intrigues me, and so here I am. Now I'm in a fucking cult.
well, I would say there
Is
are
that what
people
it
that.
is? Like people that are
No,
sheltered.
no. I would think it's people. I mean, what
What
I've
gets
observed.
someone into a cult?
What there's not one. It's not a blanket answer.
Well, okay, pick two.
Take two
Pick two. Pick two things. Like what two major things that you have noticed like that
addictions.
are to
Addictions.
people, drugs.
No, addictions. The same the same trait that makes somebody spend time playing video games until they shit themselves and have to be fucking forcibly removed, and skin grafts and whatever. That is the same thing as the guy in the casino gambling, and some are in the World Series of Poker, and some are just fucking gambling their life savings, like Adam Sandler in that one movie where he's a degenerative gambler. Like it's the
Dude.
same trait. Like, oh my. Okay, so I was raised as a Nichiren Buddhist, right? Don't practice it anymore, and I'm not saying there was anything against it, right? But I just happened to see one of the people that I used to, and like I was all in, man. Like I was, there was two things as a young YMD or young men's division that you did. It was like Soka Group, which was like bootleg security, which I knew because you and I were both in ROTC, which is bootleg security. So it was just
Right.
I just continued that, right? Just of a different ilk, right? And
Speaking
then
of that, to cut you off,
go ahead.
how are we security for a bunch of shit?
We didn't get paid for it.
No, screw they're getting paid for it. That all these adults were no adult was like, calm down, child. Fuck out of here. Everyone like, yes, I'm sorry. We'll go this way. Oh, okay. We apologize. Like, how does that happen?
because because you don't know what you don't know,
How?
right?
I guess that's
Nobody when you show up with fucking ribbons, and you got to remember the time. At least like for me, right? Like 9/11 happened the second day of my sophomore year of high school.
you were in high
2000.
school during 9/11. Really?
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
and
guys get to watch it in your
no.
classrooms?
Oh Jesus! Do you want to know? Do you want to know? You want to open up that Pandora's box about how 9/11 happened to me? And I don't want to say to me because there's obviously people that lost family members and have
Uh-huh.
conspiracy theories of what went on. But like my morning of 9/11, 2001, we were actually living not too far from where I live now, in Echo Park,
Hmm.
California. And we had just moved in. And so the reason why we lived at this place is my mom was dating a paralegal or attorney. I still don't know what he was, but he had a judgment of one of his clients, right? And the client had racked up so many fees that it's like, fuck, I don't want to pay you. Why don't you just live at the house for as long as you want? And it's a big house, so, overlooking the 5 freeway and Dodger Stadium. Like when
Hmm.
Dodger games happen, like we looked out the window and we could just see right into the fucking stadium. Like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, so we were living there, right? So the the more I mean the day before, right? We had moved from Inglewood to Echo Park, which is big distance, and
Right.
me, my mom, and my sister, we were just tired. So on the top level of this 3-story house was just like the main living quarters, excuse me, and then the bottom was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, separate
Mhm.
from the main quarters, right? So it was just dark and we were tired, so we just threw all of our shit in the apartment because there was steps and rocks and whatever the fuck, right? Pathways, whatever. So me wanting like that was when I was really fucking about school. I had just joined ROTC. There's probably a chick that I liked, whatever. And I wanted to get to school early. So I went,
Mhm.
and I wanted to get my clothes ready. I just got some new clothes from Ross and whatever, and I just
Cute.
wanted to, yeah. So I go down, you know, down the 2 stories of the main house, then down the path, and it was pitch fucking black and whatever. And this is pre cell phone, so I didn't have a light. I didn't have the wherewithal to have a flashlight or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
fucking dumb 15-year-old kid, right?
Right.
Um, so then um, I go back up, and I didn't realize that the self locking gate locked behind me. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm dark. Like, it's pitch black. I can't even see my hand in front of my face
Mhm.
and whatever the fuck. And also, I mean, up until pretty recently, I was scared of the fucking Undertaker. I thought that motherfucker was real. Every time the fucking lights went off, I was listening for a gong, whatever. Don't judge me. Um,
Not at all.
yeah. So what ended up happening, right? So Echo Park, pretty, even for then, was a pretty affluent part of LA, and there was a private driveway, and like again the self-locking gate closed, but I could still see the inside of the house, right? And it was just an iron aluminum gate or whatever. And then we had 2 cats, and the cats all of a sudden just started, and then it looked towards the fucking driveway. And I shit you not, and I got fucking goosebumps as I'm fucking telling it. Shit you not. I see one of those like old school druids, fucking cloak with the fucking hitting themselves with the fucking rope and shit
Mhm.
like that coming up the driveway. I freaked the fuck out. And I'm pounding on every door, every fucking side of the house, whatever. And then my mom, who's in the master bedroom in a white t shirt, she opens up like, whoa, like she had just woke up. White t shirt, what are you? And I'm like, fuck! Just fuck, right? And then like I'm telling her what happens, and my mom, even though like my grandfather was was the first journalist in Fiji and whatever, she didn't like watching TV right when you wake up. Like, she was dead set against it, right? For whatever reason, she clicks
Mhm.
on the fucking TV, right? And it was about 5-ish, 5, 6 o'clock, and we all had to be up. She worked at City Hall, and my sister and I, we went. My sister at Crozier, me at Inglewood, right? So we
Mhm.
we had to get up 2 hours before, right? And she turns on the TV, and that's when the second plane hits.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah, that was my 9/11 story. And then we're like, what the fuck, and whatever. And then also, my mom worked at the biggest, and that was one of the reasons why she worked there is, she wanted to work in the tallest building in Inglewood. Well,
Mhm.
if you remember, everything was like, oh shit, we didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen. Every tall building is gonna be fucked, like downtown LA,
Mhm.
whatever, and the proximity from LAX to Inglewood, right? I mean, if you come on any flight,
LAX is
it's right
Inglewood.
there. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we didn't. We all just fucking stayed home and just fucking whatever. I think we stayed home like the rest of that week. Like we didn't.
I
That
didn't
was
do anything.
didn't do fuck all. Yeah, we just yeah, man. No. I
I
was
was 21.
ooh damn.
So I was 21 in 2001.
Okay.
And I was working in Long Beach, my first big uh, drafting job, and our building overlooked the Long Beach
Harbor.
airport.
Okay.
So when the planes would land, we would have to like, because it
Brace
was right
yourself.
next door. It was
Yeah.
right next door. So it's our building, and then planes landed like this, right? So it was there, and I don't even know how we were even told about it because we were working at that time. It was 7 a.m. We went in at 7 a.m. So most of us were in commuting in the, you know, getting to work, not listening to TV, not doing anything. And I don't know how we even got informed of it, but they announced it and said there's been a terror attack. Um, we're going to be having the news in the conference room if you guys want to look into it and see what's going on. And then, so everyone just got up and everyone was in the conference room. Not one person was working. And then, because we were right next to the airport, we were like,
Fuck. Yeah.
the fuck? Right? So they said, if you guys don't feel comfortable being here today, you're more than welcome to go home. No questions asked. Everyone went home.
Yep.
Everybody. So we all go home, and you're listening to your radio all the way home, trying to figure out what's going on. You get home, you turn on the TV, try to figure out what's going on. And the worst part about 9/11, for me, because I live in LA, so I didn't have any New York issues or any other issues, was we hear on the news and they say, if you live by LAX, you won't be hearing any planes. All planes have been grounded for the next 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I remember that news clearly. So it was eerie because when you live in Inglewood, every 3 to 5.5 minutes, there's a plane. So
Yep.
now you don't hear a plane,
Mm-hmm.
you don't hear anything, right? So you're like, okay, we don't hear anything all day. You go to sleep, you go to bed, it's still eerie. It's even worse because now you're in bed and it's silence, right? So you're laying in bed in silence, finally fall asleep, and all of a sudden I hear, which is the military planes above the clouds, because you can only hear the clouds moving. Dude, everybody in Inglewood got up, called 911, and freaked the fuck out. Well,
Yeah.
you guys failed to tell us, hey, by the way, only military planes are going to be flying overhead,
Mm-hmm.
not commercial.
Yep.
So the 911 went crazy
Yeah.
because everyone thought we were about to get hit at LAX.
Yeah. I actually remember that as well. Again,
Yeah,
my mom, having friends in Inglewood,
Inglewood.
yeah, the city hall and the police department. I mean, like the mayor now, James Butts. Like, my mom was there when he came in as the police chief because he had come
Hmm.
from Santa Monica. My mom hated that fucker. He was
I
like,
don't like him.
yeah, my mom hated Maxine Waters as a douche. That's not political. It's just fucking
A
whatever. And
statement.
then yeah, and then you find out that she's like, buddy buddy with Sam Bankman-Fried that took billions from people like through
Yeah,
crypto and shit like that. So like, I mean, but that's another story for it. I
right.
mean, again, not to get political, but like everybody wants to shit on Nancy Pelosi, right? There's four other fucking names. Like, go ahead and follow Unusual Whales on Twitter. Their
Hmm.
fucking pin tweet is literally everybody that is in Congress that has beaten the spy, like the best performing stocks, whatever. And there's Congress people that have beaten that fucking thing, right?
Hmm.
And Nancy Pelosi is like number 8. There's like, it's all Republican, it's all Democrat too, and
Tell the same shit.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
that's it. But they're shitty
right.
people that it doesn't matter what they believe in, what they do on Sunday, what they who they choose to
Because we
marry.
don't know what you do on Monday.
Yeah, it doesn't,
Yeah,
and nor should it matter, right? And
right.
but again, that's one of the things that is a mental is a mental block that maybe didn't exist before. And I don't want to say it didn't exist before, because I'm sure there were gender dysphoria where you felt like you were born in the different body than what your emotions feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or gay. I remember when like kids were committing suicide with just being gay, and that's
Yeah.
like normal now. Like you see it on TV,
So
and
normal.
yeah, it's not
I've always, like, I don't have anything against gays or anyone. Do what you will. Look, whatever you want to do is 100% awesome. And that's great. But I am so confused, dumbfoundedly confused about people that do the gender change. Like, inside, I feel like a woman, but I'm a dude. But I date women, but I want to be a woman. Do you know what I mean?
I
That
yeah,
confuses the crap out of me.
no, I mean, and that's absolutely fair, but
And so, like, I don't judge what
right.
they want or what they like, but I personally think, me personally, my own personal opinion, not Anna Woods, but my personal opinion is that that is a very big mental thing. Like, gay people, I get, right? Transgenders, I get. Is that the same people? No. The people that change their sex, I don't get.
Yeah.
It's odd to me. It's very like, I'm not that educated to understand that, right? Because that's how I'm gonna say it. That I am not that educated to understand the difference of you be a man, but you feel like a woman, but you still like man, or you still like woman. Like, it's very hard for me to understand that, and I wish I understood it, because we understand gays, we understand lesbians, we understand mostly all the other things, but this one thing I don't get.
No, and
I just don't.
it's fair, right? Um, there are a couple things that opened my eyes, right?
Mhm.
So I think it was like the 2016 election, right? And Vice, and you know, you could you Vice used to be the fucking hardcore journalist. Like, if you wanted to find out what's going on in Afghanistan, they fucking dropped a motherfucker there and was
Right.
speaking Arabic and whatever the fuck. It's gotten away from that now. A lot of people will say like it's liberally biased and whatever. You think what you will, but this one piece, kind of gave me a bit of an insight where um, it was, I think, right around the 2016 election, Biden versus, or was it Hillary versus Trump? I think it was Hillary versus Trump,
I never read this one.
2016, right? And they had literally everybody in the LGBTQ plus, and I hope I'm getting that right, and I don't mean to offend. Um,
LGBTQ, and then I think there's an extra word, ABCs. I don't know.
yeah,
I
but
It's the whole thing.
yeah, but you know the deal, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, like when they talk about the community, right? The gay community, lesbian, the transgender, the non-binary, all the the community. I thought it was one community. They all felt the same way, just like how you know our current president, right? When he was with Charlemagne, like, what do you? Well, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, or something like that, right?
Dude, that was
Or
wild.
Trump grabbing him by the lady parts and whatever.
That's wild. If you're
Like
You can't be black if you're not voting for
and
me.
both of those guys became president. Both of those
Wild.
guys saying those things.
Yeah, I guess at this point we're just picking the lesser evil.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
I don't know.
mean,
Yeah, I guess to an extent, right? But so going back to this Vice deal, right? They had everybody. They
so you
had like
understood it. Uh-huh.
openly gay Trump guys and non-binary Trump people and like non-binary, like the whole, like a representative of every acronym in that community, and they couldn't
Hmm.
be further from each other. There were some that were the same. There were some that didn't, but they got it. Like it was an uneven panel. Like it was like 11, so like there couldn't be anybody that felt like they got ganged up on, right? Because it was uneven, right? They had like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and even the interviewer was identified as a lesbian woman, right? So that like the whole fucking cornucopia, and to see that it's not a community, right? You might think just because that's who they choose to marry or what they identify, that would make them all the same, and it doesn't.
It
Just like
doesn't.
just like there's
And they
Latinos
just
and
clump
Asians for
together.
Trump, and that want to become cops, and people that want to be gangsters, and it's everybody. I've seen lesbian gangsters, I've transgender gangsters, I've seen it all. I've seen maybe not the best, what is it, cosmetically appeasing people, you know, um, n- you know, uh, to take home what most people would consider tens and models and whatever, like just
Mhm.
because of their attitude. Like it's it's the thing, you remember we were like heralding, a Caitlyn Jenner, like, oh my gosh, like you're the woman of the year or whatever. But like,
See, I think that's wrong too. Like, just you didn't we didn't do that to anyone else. Why did we do it to Caitlyn Jenner?
well, I mean, if this is also downplaying the fact that she killed a person, uh, literally killed a person,
Right.
right? But as did Brandy, right? It's like, you know, there's so much, right? Like the Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter. I don't know where the transition happened. Where like, if you're a celebrity and you said some dumb shit during the pandemic, that was also the Black Lives Matter protests and also the insurrection and everything. All that shit happened all at the fucking same time, or within
Mhm.
all the same time. We were all at home, theoretically speaking.
We all
But
were bored and
right,
and and
exactly,
actually paid attention.
right. So just stroking the fucking fires and what have you, and um, yeah, man. Like they're like Black Lives Matter. Well, like I've seen a lot, not a lot, but there have been. I remember specifically in Orange County, there was a guy, a homeless guy, that got shot by Orange County police, shot and killed, homeless guy. And then they found out doing the autopsy he was from a prominent family, and he wasn't so faceless anymore. His life
Hmm.
mattered. Or the fucking I can't remember. I think it was like Amarillo, Texas. This exterminator. It was like, he was a traveling exterminator. Him and his girlfriend or wife were talking to. Oh, they met up with one of their friends, right? And as a part of his job, the exterminator had a BB gun, right, to
Hmm.
hunt, raccoons and whatever the hell, right? And he was kind of showing it off. Somebody in the hotel thought it was like a fucking gun, whatever. This guy is brandishing a weapon, whatever. And if you look at the body cam footage, when they call him out, they're like, there's like, if you've ever been held at gunpoint to any extent, it's a sobering experience. It's something that unfortunately I've had happen many a times, both by quote unquote gangsters, but also police. And
Hmm.
I was also taught like maybe the police or the gangsters with a badge. Same difference. They protect their own. But that's another thing for another day. But
Right.
it's a sobering experience, right? And imagine having literally a half dozen officers with various forms of guns, laser focused ones, and whatever the fuck, and all of them shouting different expressions, and you're already scared. You're like, what the fuck happened? Or whatever.
Hmm.
And because of it, one got trigger happy, and the rest of them, whatever, they fucking Swiss cheese his ass. He was a white guy. His life mattered, So it's not like the whole black life. Like there's many more. Like, what are we talking about police brutality? And with the police brutality, there's many great cops, right? There's many good people. There's good straight people, bad straight people, bad rich people. Like it's you got. If you look deep enough, you'll
You
find.
got a little bit of everything and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes things beautiful, but it also can make things chaotic.
Right.
So I mean, that's that. Don't worry, we have more time to talk. I really enjoyed you guys' podcast. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I'm stuck in traffic, says Mick Mac. Trump got screwed by Twitter. But I mean, Truth Social and the other Rumble, those are doing awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on, Addis? What up, bro? They censored all the information. Again, Truth Social and Rumble, I guess, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Russell Brand's on Rumble. I like Russell Brand. F. Trump and Biden, they're both on the same page. They do what makes billionaires happy and people that don't matter. No, I mean, you're not wrong, but that's all politicians.
You're definitely not wrong.
Yeah, like Tupac said, once we have people with 50 rooms and 10 houses, we have people with kids out of food and or a roof over the head. Yeah, I mean it's a disparity. I thought it was an insurrection pay per view in terms of all the riots. It could have been. I'm just saying it could have been. What is it? Jesus Christ, because they WWE actually had God. What's their fucking name? It's not Damage Control, but they actually had a faction that was like, kind of tongue in cheek Antifa
Mm-hmm.
because pro wrestling. I love it. One was named Slapjack. The other one was like, I don't know, ball sack or some shit. It was weird. It was weird. It's all population control. If you go to court, fight the system if you have the money. No, I mean Sam Bankman-Fried, bro. Like, let's see how that plays out. And Epstein didn't kill himself. Uh, and fuck, your life is in their hands. I mean, but it's all, yeah, you know, yeah. But again, Jesus, mental illness, right? And I know how you were talking about, the LGBTQ plus and not understanding. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing about it is, every point in history prior to this, right? Like the things that as modern society has been ixnayed, right?
Right.
Weed, they were doing it before. The acacia
Right.
bush that was, that grew around where the burning bush happened. Well, if you believe in evolution, they say that mushrooms was what helped with the primal version of us expand our brain capacity over the course of thousands of years, and that's why we're
Mm-hmm.
here. If you believe that, some people believe that the Earth is flat, or we're in simulation, that everything has already happened in another universe, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you believe. Person in the sky that's whatever, and you say your rosaries or chant how many times, and
Mm-hmm.
what like but that again, that's why I love like the documentaries about cults and shit like that, because like it's weird. It's funny. Vince McMahon and Donald Trump, very similar in the way that how they grew up, right?
Because they're like buddy buddies too.
True. Sam Bankman-Fried and Tony Khan of AEW, Dana White and Vince McMahon, whoever the fucking NBA president and the MLB president or the NHL president, they have some
Mm-hmm.
of the similar traits. And if it's not the current one, then the one before him.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany Griner, knowing the fucking how Russia is because he's played there for fucking years before and still took the vape and whatever.
Yep.
It's a fucking bold move. You didn't watch the Pussy Riot documentary? See what they did to their own? Jesus Christ.
Dude, I
There's a lot, right? But that's like everybody wants to believe. I think
right.
that's it.
That's something we need to believe in
Even atheists, they will tell you how much that they hate other religions to the extent it sounds like a fucking religion.
because it is.
Just saying. But again, whether it be religion,
It's a
non-religion, pro
it's a
wrestling,
ain't
MMA,
it?
food.
It's one of the atheism. It's one of those. I'm 12 and I don't want to go to church. I'm not one thing with mom. That's what atheism is for me.
I guess the to encompass it, I remember. Oh, it was T-Bar, and it was Retribution. That was the Antifa deal in the WWE. And that was even crazy
Had
too
people
because
call
they,
insurrection.
they they Yes, they did it over in the UK. But I mean, they did the fucking retribution shit where they were attacking everybody in the same WWE universe where they were having Raw Underground. It was supposed to be an underground fight. It was like, if you got insurrectionists and then badasses and then supposedly fake wrestling in the middle of it, why don't you get the fucking badasses to fight the fucking insurrectionists?
Just sit back and watch.
Just
Why not?
saying. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, but that's why I like it because again, um, the people, the way people get into like the weed smokers, right?
Hmm.
Oh, they got to wear the fucking socks and fucking listen to the reggae and the whatever. And
That's
that's a
stupid.
generalization, right? That's a generalization. But I know many or feel like they have to be lazy or whatever. There are many like functioning whatever and weed and mushrooms and psychedelics. I've always,
Hmm.
how the fuck do you think the pyramids happened or whatever? I'm not saying that's it, but maybe
They
what
were super blown.
right. Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson, right on Netflix, they have this
Hmm.
thing. I think it's a 6-part, 1 hour series or whatever that I haven't yet to watch, but them on Rogan, saying that the Amazon was all man made. All of that shit was desert before. Not so much desert in the way that we know it, but like not not what we now
No,
know it is.
right.
There's a whole civilization under that,
Hmm.
that still exists and whatever, and artifacts. And we're actually older as a human and a species as we first thought,
Right.
and have been told for how many years, you
Yep.
know. But when you buy a textbook, there's a company on the back of it, or a book, or whatever, and all of those things don't come free, right? We've monetized
Hmm.
our police force. We've monetized our politics. We've monetized our wellness, right?
Hmm.
Going to the gym costs money. Eating good costs money. Being sick costs money. Getting well costs money. Whatever. Like everything is monetized,
Hmm.
right? Where you don't know what's live or Memorex. You don't know which way is up or down, right? But the same traits that in people that are addicts, people that do the religion. I remember going to a church,
It's the same
and
thing.
there's these people that are speaking in tongues, but they say the same thing every day, every service, twice on Sunday and then the Wednesday, and the same two people that are running around the bloody pews, and the same two people that are laughing at the same point of every service every fucking week.
Hmm.
But you can't question it. But that same thing that feeds whatever that is. I want to be the employee of the month. I wish my teacher likes me. I want to get the apple for the teacher. I want my husband, whatever. I'm so about this relationship. All of these things.
It's all like
It
an
feeds.
addiction.
It's all addiction, man. It's all addiction. Like it is,
Yeah.
and that's if it go.
This is why it's so hard for you to get out of relationships. It's so hard why some people won't
Yeah,
can't stay out of a relationship. Like there's people that go from person to person to person to person because we haven't learned how to be alone.
right.
Because being alone, it's not an addiction.
Oh, I'm alone in my own head all the time, and it sucks. It sucks for the people around me. Right back rules. I don't think so. That's one addiction that I don't think that anybody's gonna jump on. Fuck Ryback. I'll say that. Um, yeah. So this is, I mean, as the that English telenovela, right, or the soap opera, right, as the world turns, and that's it. The world's turning, right? And unfortunately, there's going to be people that have mental illness, and it's not going to be a
Hmm.
paintbrush thing. There's going to be people that don't know financial literacy that are always going to need help. But we
Yep.
all need help. We need the help of each other. We need the help of a community. Even by saying antisocial, like that's a community. Like you're going to find people that just want to fucking stand, like a wallflower, in a room against the wall, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Like that, whatever it is. But hopefully, you make a positive impact, and not only in the lives of the people around you, but also yourself.
Right.
because there is a bit, when it's suicide or whatever, all those things. And again, I don't know. I have made in high school suicide attempts. I remember drinking Drano. I remember wanting to jump off things, and I'm not saying that, oh, woe is me or whatever, because there are people that are suffering way more than I that actually go
Hmm.
through it and whatever. And nor am I trying to delegitimize their stuff, but there, unfortunately, those things, like this gentleman, the DJ Twitch, right? You think he has it all, right? Adoration of fans, like well career, beautiful family.
Hmm.
I remember in San Diego. I mean, it was a case that happened pre-pandemic, but there was a guy on, I think it was TikTok or social media or whatever, and he was like this like funny dude and blah blah blah, and then his wife left him and whatever, and he ends up shooting the wife and the wife's boyfriend, like
I
in,
remember that.
yeah, that's also mental illness. And that's the
It's
obsession he
all.
had with her. And people that are on
Hmm.
TikTok and they have to be on it. All like I see people around me that are flipping, and it's very gamification wise, right? Like you can't just watch one TikTok video. It fucking plays and it plays and it plays
Yeah,
and
you don't have
watching
a
the next.
choice.
Yeah, and it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And not to say I'm any better. I
Hmm.
recognize it. I love the fucking Hart family, but do I have I mean, I did name my kid Owen, so there's that. One would say that's a bit of an insanity. And again, my wife is awesome; she let me do that. But it's like. And if you don't know, you don't know, and if you do, you do.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that need help. If you need help, and it sounds so easy, but to
Far
reach out,
fetched.
yeah, to reach out for help, because sometimes you're in that hole, you're in that despair so much that
Hmm.
you can't even pick up the phone, you can't even
Yeah.
whatever. That's why check-ins are important. But also on the other side, as somebody who does check in, that doesn't mean that you're gonna save the person that is, or that
Right.
person's not gonna have cancer, or is a ticking time bomb of aneurysm, heart attack, whatever. They might get
Yeah.
stung by a jellyfish and whatever the fuck and die. Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. He's a crocodile hunter, but fucking gets killed by a stingray. The
Right.
American sniper who had more
You
confirmed
got.
kills, or whatever, was shot by somebody who was teaching how to shoot.
He got shot by someone he was
Teaching how to shoot.
trying to help
Yep.
out of the mental health
Yeah.
because he had been to war so many times and he got shot by him.
Hmm.
See, but that's what I'm saying. Like we and all this stuff. I'm happy. I'm glad that people are talking more about it and doing more things about it. And like I said, always check on your strong friends. People always check on your strong friends. And I don't know about other countries, but I know in the states, if you are having, I just pulled it up. If you're not doing well, there's a what is? Do you know the number? It's a 988 number.
It is. Let's see. I believe this
I
is.
think it's 988. It's a
Uh,
number.
I yes. So it is 1-800 273 8255. Actually, let me do one of these gimmicks here.
Yeah, you can dial
And we made it.
988. You can dial 988 for suicide and crisis life. It's the lifeline because before you can do the number, but now you can actually just dial 988. You can text peace to 741-741, and that's a 24/7 crisis hotline. Or 1-800-273-TALK, and that's also the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. But the newest one is at 988. It's the easiest one to remember, and that's Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So,
Yeah.
so just call that number, and it, suicide is not always
The answer.
the answer, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, with all the resources that we have in this world, in this country, in this era nowadays, that should not be the answer,
Yeah,
right?
it shouldn't, yeah, it's just it's sad. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things that, you know, that person, Jason David Frank, Chester Bennington's kids, Chris
Mm-hmm.
Cornell's kids, gentleman, Twitch, right?
He had three
Now
kids,
that
a
now
14, a 7, and a 3-year-old, I
this is
believe.
going to be one that, it
Mm-hmm.
haunts them. And not to, I don't want to, like, I guess the only way that I know is to bring it back into pro wrestling, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Graham was a promoter in Florida. He was one half of the Golden Grams in the WWF. They drew shit tons of money. Goes down to Florida. Kevin Sullivan, Dusty Rhodes, even Andre the Giant to some extent owe their life and careers to
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Graham, right? Well, Eddie Graham ends up dying by suicide. Well, his
Mm-hmm.
son Mike,
So
who's a
Chris Benoit, right?
no.
Oh,
This
who
is,
was it? Who was
but
the
that, I
other
mean,
one?
that's another one. That I mean
Right, Chris Benoit.
yeah, Chris
He
Benoit.
killed his wife, his kid,
Mhm.
and then himself.
Right, and then brain injury. But yeah, so again with Eddie Graham, right? He ends up committing suicide. His son Mike, who was a wrestler too, and maybe not to the extent of his dad, but held backstage positions as an agent in WCW and
Mm-hmm.
what have you. And then, I mean, God, it was like almost 30 years after his dad died, but he ends up committing
Committed
suicide himself.
suicide.
And that as the kid of people who commit suicide, like they say that haunts you.
Mm-hmm.
The kids whose parents died of addiction, it haunts them.
Right.
Like, so that's something, just like you and I, right, have this memory of our parents passing during the holidays, and it can be traumatic to
Mm-hmm.
hear people getting ready and getting together with family and listening to carols and watching like, you can't avoid it. Shops in October already getting into Christmas stuff and
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? So for those kids that are affected directly, it's never going to be the same again.
Right.
So it's just be aware
Yeah,
that
people need to be aware of it. We need to be more conscious of how we
interact with it. Our
interact with it.
relation, our
Because also
relationship
we
with it.
don't know, like with you, right? We don't know, or my husband, like, I know he's not doing great around this time, so I'm constantly like, hey, do you want to talk? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Same thing with you. Hey, do you want to come over, hang out, get out, do different things so you're not stuck in that rut?
Mhm.
Like, we always think that we're doing good by doing that as well.
Yeah,
And sometimes we can be hurting someone. So, like, I invited you for Christmas, but I haven't asked you about it because I'm like, he's dealing with his own shit. We already know this situation, and he will let me know when he is ready. Right. And it's just one of those things that consciously we have to know because we can't be like, so you're coming, just get over it. Just come
yeah,
have fun. And then you come do what you want to do. No, no, it's not about that. Like, if these are your real friends and families, we have to understand
yeah,
that there's a mental thing, that it's something you can't just brush off for 3 hours and then it's going to come back later on. No. And you might be able to pause it so that you can have a normal life, right? But that doesn't mean that it's gone away. It's just,
yeah,
and then we have to be there as friends and family to, once that pause gets taken off and we're back to play, to be there for you guys as needed,
right.
right?
And be here for each other. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess like two things, right? So, and that doesn't mean it's the end of it. Just because you got through it today, whatever. It's like,
Doesn't mean that it's going to be good tomorrow.
once you pop, you just can't stop. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. It's something that's
Mm-hmm.
constant, whether it be 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 minutes, 6 seconds from now, 6 years from now, 6 decades from now,
Mm-hmm.
it's still there, And also, I remember how uh, in Eddie Guerrero's like DVD documentary, right? stealing life, cheating death, right? There's a when he was talking about his sobriety, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said something that stuck with me. It was, if somebody said, "Hey, Eddie, be sober for the rest of your life." Fuck, I don't even know what I'm gonna order for fucking lunch. But can you be sober today?
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit more manageable.
Right. Can
So
you be sober this hour?
yeah.
What about this hour?
Hmm.
You know, it's all different. It's
Secondly,
all, yeah.
yeah. So it's just that constant maintenance and everything, and it sounds like a hard work, and it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're not gonna lie to you, but
Mm-mm.
coming out of it,
It's not something you do overnight.
right? Absolutely. But coming out of it and dealing with it, you will become stronger,
Yeah.
and a strength that is unforshakable that you didn't think you had,
Right.
and you could possibly help other people
Yeah.
if that's what you choose to do. Have another purpose. You might have thought your life was hopeless and purposeless and whatever. Well, maybe that is your gift, and how
Mm-hmm.
many people in recovery, they get themselves straight and they go into recovery, and that becomes their life, their job, their occupation, and whatever, and they help hundreds of thousands of people,
Nope.
so
Mm-hmm.
it all just starts with one, and you are the one today. So I think
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
That's it, I think.
Yeah.
I think we
Well,
did our mental check for the day.
and just so anybody knows, no matter how it may look, I've come to terms that I'm fucked up. And if you want to join me in the fucked up shit that I post, According to Woods is where you can find the Principal podcast, and then all the other socials, same thing. People falling off of something in the most horrible ways possible. And that's how I check in with myself. It's like just to make sure that I'm sane. But Claudia, where can they find you on the socials?
I'm at CC underscore 272 on IG and on Twitter. And I don't post the crazy.
Yeah.
I post the mental health stuff.
We got the yin and the yang. Yin and the
Yeah,
yang.
that's the way it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So
It all
you guys,
works.
absolutely. So thank you guys for joining us here. Thank you guys for all sharing your stories. We appreciate that and your
Yeah.
feedback. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. And we talked about it off air, and we're kind of tease it, but maybe in the next coming year, the Woods and Wade podcast will have their own social media and platforms to stream off of. So
Their
that is
own
coming.
platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Logos and everything. So yeah. So go ahead and subscribe. Um, and we just love you. Just Mario
Yeah.
Yamasaki's everywhere. You guys are the best.
Stay safe. Stay
Yes.
loving. Check in.
Check in. Check in. But as we check out,